Alex Jones is filing for bankruptcy, sort of, in certain contexts. And it might not accomplish for him legally what he would hope, but it does add a new wrinkle to his ongoing defamation lawsuits that he has in regards to him claiming that Sandy Hook and in fact every shooting ever was a false flag. In this case, the parent company of InfoWars, Free Speech Systems, filed for bankruptcy this week. This is in advance of, we're gonna figure out how much he's gonna owe to the families of his defamation. He faces up to $150 million in this case. We're pending on that, but here, let's talk about the bankruptcy. Free Speech Systems, according to him, has $14 million in assets, $79 million in liabilities. I don't take anything in these filings for like as a given. But how exactly would you end up in that financial situation? First of all, how has he generated literally millions of dollars? That is insane. You have to sell a lot of gorilla bone supplements and stuff like that to raise $14 million. But he has. Now, it's not going to affect the current defamation trial. But this is also not the first time a company tied to him has moved towards bankruptcy. A couple months ago, they had been floating bankruptcy as a way of getting out of the entire thing. A judge overruled that. They couldn't get out of the entire thing. But there's 3 other companies tied to Alex Jones that have been filing for bankruptcy recently. None of those are going to pause the current litigation. But anyway, we've got a statement from the families that I thought was great. They're one of the only groups giving me hope in this society right now. So their statement says, just 2 days before jury selection is due to begin in Connecticut, Mr. Jones has once again fled like a coward to bankruptcy court in a transparent attempt to delay facing the families that he has spent years hurting. These families have an endless well of patience and remain determined to hold Mr. Jones accountable in a Connecticut court. And I have no doubt about that. First of all, they've been dealing with this for literally years, so I'm sure that their patience muscles have been well strengthened. But also, considering the massive tragedy that they've faced, the injustice that they faced ever since, he's also created in himself like the only thing they can go for to try to get a sense of justice at this point for all that's been stolen from them, not only their family members, but the years of harassment and having to move and all that. Like, what else are they supposed to do now except to try to get this guy for as much as possible? And that's what he created for them, Francesca.
Yeah, a group of people you don't want to piss off is people who have very little left to live for. And when you take someone's child at the age of 6 through mass gun violence in a senseless murder, and then tell them that they actually made up that murder. I don't want to tangle with those parents. And guess what? A lot of them have been, of course, for years. I'm thinking of Leonard Posner, who won his case in 2019 against Alex Jones. One of the many cases. This is a man who lost everything, who had to move multiple times because of harassment, of being doxxed, of going online, of like going into the belly of the beast, into the mouth of this disgusting conspiracy theory and trying to implode it. And he successfully did, at least in the court of law. And you gotta admire someone like that. And yet the amount of drive and years and time it took and it is taking for these families to get justice is just beyond me. So, I mean, I hope there's a way that we can all, hear this testimony. Like, I mean, this is the thing for me. It's like, ever since January 6th, I'm like, let me hear everything. I wanna hear from the parents of mass shooting victims about the amount of misinformation and what that has done to their lives. And what people like Alex Jones, because there's so many others of them, like what they've done. So anyway, hats off to them and lol for Alex Jones. He'll be back somewhere, I don't know.
Yeah, look, I mean, he hasn't even committed what should pass for the deadly sins of others like Steve Bannon. All he did was lie, and that is not a sin from the point of view of the right. That's the only thing they want is people who will lie to them, about them, lie to steal their money. So he did that, and so they're still gonna love him. Like if he, let's say that they do successfully drain him of every single dollar, he'll raise $20 million the next day. Look at the amount he's been raising during this trial. He's been appealing to his followers. He got an $8 million cryptocurrency donation. That's a thing that you can do. You can just hand over $8 million in cryptocurrency. We'll never know who did it, and that's not supposed to be suspicious. No, but like think about that. If you can do that, and it's just cool, what can't you do in terms of funding media? Like, think about how important media is and the messages that people get across. Like there are disclosure requirements and things like that when it comes to campaign finance. When you're directly financing like PACs as well as the actual campaigns and some of the organizations that run them. In some cases. But when it comes to media, you can just literally hand over millions of dollars to a person who's finally facing justice for years and years of like murderous lies about these people. And that is convenient to some people to have an Alex Jones out there. Who else is it convenient for certain sides to have? And they can just hand over money. So he's done that. He says he's spent $15 million already on legal bills when it comes to this. Goddamn, lawyers are expensive. But stop for a second. Is it kind of weird that we live in a world where maybe some of you remember when Sandy Hook happened, how devastating that was? I'm from Connecticut, so I like burned into my memory. That started a chain of events of Alex Jones lying about these people for years and years and years, harassing them, running them all across the country, finally a legal process over years. And all of that shooting results in tons of lawyers buying yachts. Such a weird world we live in.
And the last thing I was gonna say is, I mean, in terms of the media and who's benefiting, like let's keep it real and talk about the platforms like YouTube, like Facebook, who are making hand over fist money from these lies. And it took this father, Leonard Posner, in 2019 to get Alex Jones off of YouTube. And yes, when you deplatform someone, people can absolutely find your lies elsewhere. However, I would very much argue that deplatforming is a strategy that works. It took money out of Alex Jones's pocket. It prevented people from finding his lies and conspiracy theories, and that is thanks to the father of a kid who was slain, having to again sacrifice literally everything. But guess what? YouTube wasn't going to do that on its own. Google wasn't going to do that on its own. Meta, Zuckerberg, you think Jack was gonna do like kick Trump off Twitter on his own? No, it had to take a near coup for him to do that. And oh, by the way, a lame duck coup. Who knows if Trump was actually still president? Of course he'd be still on Twitter. It doesn't matter. So, so we have to remember like who's really benefiting from this. And sadly, the algorithm pushes the most outlandish crap out there.
Yeah, and look, he is mostly off of those things, but I know there have been very long periods where his stuff was still getting posted constantly on YouTube and on channels that can monetize off of it. That's been true of like, so even when they do allow people to be taken off, you always have to follow up and watch because they're not nearly as vigilant about that as one would hope. Now, really fast, I just want to give you a little bit more on what he's been doing as his trial's been proceeding. So this dude, I don't know if you know this, he loves duct taping his own mouth. It's actually my favorite characteristic of him. You can see in this shot, he's got I think he says save the first right there, implying that his free speech rights are being violated. Which I think is a good point because as we all know, there are no limitations whatsoever on the First Amendment. You can say literally anything. You can shout fire in a crowded theater. No, that's exactly what people are arguing is happening here. That he is directly and intentionally for profit mobilizing his viewers to harass and threaten the parents of mass shooting victims. There are some limitations. I think that that's a reasonable one. He recently went on to Steve Bannon's podcast. I just love the combination of Alex Jones and Steve Bannon. You can see there, Steve Bannon said they're so scared of you. No, dude. You're not scared of Alex Jones. They don't want him to continue to tell lies that cause people to do murderous, like death threats and things like that for you. That's not. Is there an element of fear? Well, I mean, I guess I don't want your viewers to murder people. I guess I'm scared about that, but not in the way that you seem to be saying. But I love that combo, Francesca, because you have Alex Jones, a guy who only has a cent to his name because of his willingness to lie to these people. Talking with Steve Bannon, a guy who literally conned them. Everyone knows that he conned them out of millions of dollars and still has a show and still has an audience. They don't care that he robbed them of money and not just generally robbed them of money that they wanted to use to build a wall, which they think is the only infrastructure project that should ever be funded, so that he could buy a yacht. But they hate coastal elites. We know that.
I feel bad when, like, in my bonus content for my Patreon, like, I forget whether someone's running as a Democrat or Republican, or like I get a fact wrong based on like that's the level of, oh my God, you paid for this. Thank you for supporting me. I can't believe I did anything to, like lower you and your precious $5. Like that's my level of mania about trying to be, a responsible media figure with a fraction of the following, a fraction of the clout that someone like Steve Bannon is. But again, what is the kink, man? What's the kink where you like to be grifted upon? And like, let's be real, the kink is white supremacy. When someone can sell you a basket of lies, a framework of thought of othering immigrants, people of color, and lifting up straight, cis, white, rich men, buy it, bro, buy it. Put that on a shirt and you'll, get yourself a lunchbox, get yourself that tactical gear, and that's it. And as long as you're holding to that. Yeah. Get that though, them frog liver supplements. I don't know if those are the ones that turn you gay. I can't remember, or they undo the gayness.
No, they do, but they have a lot of B vitamins in them. So you win some, you lose some.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, it's just, God, so popular. And I get that there's some people that don't think about the political side of it. They just think it's entertaining to hear a crazy person break down and sweat on camera. But it's remember, he isn't just that. Tucker Carlson elevates him, talks on his show about how reputable he is. Glenn Greenwald, just did that like fawning interview with him. Trump saying that this is a guy you should trust. This is the guy who talks about before Marjorie Greene was talking about Jewish space lasers, Alex Jones was the one talking about lasers from space or maybe Antarctica, he's not sure. But John Kerry has a laser that can be used to combine hurricanes or separate them. I don't know, maybe it's two different lasers, maybe it's one. This is the sort of stuff that they're talking about. Anyway, we're gonna see what ends up happening. Even if they get the $150 million, he's gonna find people are desperate to hand these grifters their money, and I will never understand that.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.